You can continue practicing for as long as you like. Or if you want to start from the beginning, just enter a new name.
Right then, you're coming with me.
What's happening? Hey,
What's that? Help!
Fritz and Chester, Part 2. Chess in the Black Castle. Once upon a time, there was a king who was as wise can be, and his name was King White. The king had a son whose name was Fritz, and Fritz had a cousin whose name was Bianca.
Any second now.
And now it's time for our long-awaited program about the best chess player in the land.
And who else could that be but our old friend and coach, Chester?
The one and only, truly beloved, Chester the Cheshire Rat.
Yeah!
Ooh, wow!
Super!
Yay!
A moment, please. I've just been given an urgent message. Unfortunately, Chester is nowhere to be found. And so the title, Best Chess Player in the Land, is automatically awarded to, King Black. King Black, you are a well-known collector of traps for rats and mice, and also an ambitious chess player. How do you feel about being awarded this unexpected honor?
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, this honor is not quite as unexpected as you may think. Chester never really was a very good chess player. Actually, I always beat him.
That's a blatant lie. Chester beat him hands down.
But that was him, I'm sure of it. Didn't you see him?
Chester? No.
It was, I'm quite sure. And he was holding up a sign and it said, "I've been kidnapped."
Only one person can be behind this.
King Black! Come on, Bianca. Let's go to him and check things out.
This is taking ages.
Do you want to play something? I've got my pocket chess set with me. What about a game?
Love to, but I don't know if we'll be able to remember all the rules. The good thing is I've got my organizer with me. I wrote them all down in there.
Let's test each other.
Good idea. You start.
Look at this. What's this piece called?
Do you think I'm stupid? That's a bishop, of course.
Right. And what squares can it move to?
Shall I click on them?
Yes, click on all the squares you think the bishop can now move to. Once you think you've got them all, click on the red button. Then I'll tell you whether you're right or not. Hey, that was right on.
Well, what did you expect? And now it's my turn. What's this one called?
That's a knight.
No, it's a horse.
It looks like a horse, but the experts call it a knight. And what do you want to know now?
Can you tell me where it can move to? Any idea? Click on all the squares.
Of course I know that.
Hey, that was a perfect jump.
Well, it was me. Next question. Where can I castle here?
How do you do that again?
Castling? Can't you remember? You'd better have a look in your organizer. That's the move where the king and the rook...
Oh, yes, I remember. The king moves 2 squares to the side, and the rook jumps over him. Let me see.
I'll give you a hint. You can only castle here from one position. Now it's up to you to move. Great! That's actually quite difficult.
Oh, not for me. Now I've got another one for you. The queen is the most powerful piece. Click on all the pieces she can knock out of the way.
But what if it isn't such a clever thing to do?
That's not the point here. Just knock them off. When you think you've knocked off all the pieces the white queen can take, click on the red button. cool. You understand more about girls than I thought.
Well... And now I've got another question. The opponent's king can be mated in one single move. Which one is it?
In just one move?
In one move.
Let me have a think.
Mate, that was great.
That's me. Great. I think we can still remember everything.
I hope so.
Well, if we can't, we can always have a look in my organizer. I wrote it when we met Chester. That was in the brain building Intelligent when we had to learn how to play chess because King Black had challenged you to a duel. Well, anyway, that's a long story. I only wrote down the most important parts in my organizer. Nice. Where are we?
I think we went the wrong way. But the horses need a rest anyway.
Hi there, and welcome to Pleasantville.
Oh, we're in Pleasantville. Very nice.
You're just in time.
We're having our Village Olympics.
A real authentic Village Olympics with everything you could possibly want.
As we're here, we might as well have a quick look around.
This is the fork-in. You can play Slice the Cake with our village baker there today.
Wow, that sounds good. Let's go inside. Hey, it's cool here.
And the Slice the Cake match at the Pleasantville Village Olympics is just beginning. A round of applause for the players on the court, our village baker, and a pair of pigs.
Now this is going to be fun.
And this is what you have to do. Instead of balls, we play with cakes. The other side serves. A great return by our village baker and a double whammy. This is cake slicing at its best. 10 points for the village baker, and hope it tastes good.
I think the trick is to hit the cake with the fork so that both pigs get some.
Exactly. Otherwise, you only get 1 point, and you'll disappoint the spectators. Move the baker using the arrow keys, and return the cake using the space bar. And now, enough said, and on with the first slice. Oh, I see. You want to go into the Skewer Inn. That's where the Cannonman Championships are taking place.
Come on, let's go check it out.
Welcome to one of the highlights of the Pleasantville Village Olympics, the Cannonman Championships.
Wow, this is exciting.
Our living target, Jumbo Chops Joe, has taken up his position. Aim the cannon and fire!
Look, Bianca, he skewered 2 in one go.
Yes, that is the aim of the game. If you hit 2 things, you get more points. Aim the cannon using the arrow keys. Move it with the mouse and click to fire. But a word of warning. If you hit a flying fish, you lose points.
Ugh.
And of course, you only have a limited amount of time. So fire away!
So you two, what do you think of our Village Olympics?
Great.
Yes, but we didn't actually plan on coming here. We wanted to go to King Black's castle to rescue our friend Chester.
That's not very far from here. It's right behind Soggy Sock Swamp. We'll tell you how to get through it. Here's a map of Soggy Sock Swamp. Take care, if you miss your step, you could get a nasty cold.
But if you know which way to go, it won't be a problem.
That's why we've divided up the map into squares. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and so on.
Now we can tell you exactly where to go.
First of all, you have to go to A5. Please click on A5.
Yeah, that was A5. Now you have to move on to D8. Do you know where that is?
I think so.
Exactly. Now on to D5.
D5? That's a piece of cake.
Hey, you're like one of those satellite navigation systems. That was great. And now after E3. Where's that?
That's right, just around the corner. And now G1.
G1. Let me see.
You've chosen a good route, you two. Now you have to go to G4.
G4? Easy.
You got a good sense of direction.
Just for the record, we're actually very clever.
Then it shouldn't be a problem for you to find F6.
You're almost there. H8 is your next port of call.
There you are. You've done it. And on the other side of Soggy Sock Swamp, you'll find King Black's castle.
About time, too. We've made it. There's King Black's castle.
Wow, what a rundown shack.
Now all we have to do is find King Black and make him talk.
Exactly. If he really has kidnapped Chester, he'll have to let him go again.
It's a bit spooky here, isn't it?
I just keep asking myself where all the traps are.
What do you mean, traps?
You know, the rat and mouse traps which King Black collects. Chester really thrashed him at chess. And Chester is a rat. Get it?
Oh, right. You mean a kind of revenge on all the rodents in the world?
Exactly. It's really pathetic if you ask me.
Come on, let's have a look outside.
Hey, look at that! A red button. I'll just press it.
Bianca, no! Ouch! Hey, Bianca, do you always press any buttons you see?
Nope. Only if they're red. Hey, there's another one!
Bianca, no!
Too late.
What's going on? Hey, what's going on?
Chester? There you are, Chester. We've been really worried about you.
That cowardly King Black kidnapped me and locked me in here. Terrible place. Ridiculous.
Oh, yes. And here's his collection of traps.
But he didn't count on us coming. Hang on a second. I'll get you out of there.
Thanks, Bianca.
And now let's get out of here.
Ha 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 ha! That's what you think.
King Black.
Exactly. And now I'm the greatest chess player in the land because you'll never get out of here.
Oh, not so fast. We'll find a way out.
And you think you're the best chess player? The way you play, practically anyone can beat you.
Is that meant to be a joke?
No, a threat. Anyone can learn enough chess to win a game against you, whether man, woman, or child. They only need the right coach. Like me, for example.
A sewer rat? How amusing.
What do you mean? You want to bet?
What's the point? You can all stay here until you go blue in the face.
If he thinks we won't be able to escape, he's got another thing coming. Hey, what have we got here then? A junk room?
Yet another collection of garbage. But instead of mouse traps, this time they look like some kind of strange machines.
Wow! You two, these are not just any old kinds of machines. These are the first and foremost in chess machines. I've always wanted to practice on these things. Each of them has its own speciality. No question about it. We gotta take a closer look at them.
King Black must use them to try and polish up what little skill he has. I guess what he hasn't got in his head he has to have standing around in his basement.
I beg your pardon? Listen here, you little brat. I forbid you to use that tone. And if anyone so much as lays a finger on my machines, then...
Oh, get lost, you old fuddy-duddy. And telling me not to touch is all the more reason to do so.
If you don't like it, you can throw us out.
Never. I'm the best chess player in the land, and no rat is going to get the better of me. And you two little upstarts shouldn't even begin to think about it.
Well, if you're not going to let us out, we'll find our way out ourselves.
You what? You'll never manage it. The code for the lock is absolutely unbreakable. And anyway, you two are such dimwits you wouldn't be able to get the Elosophical Elevator to move up even one floor.
What kind of elevator was he on about? What did he call it?
Philosophical or something.
What's that?
No idea. Some kind of table or something like that. I'll put it in my organizer. It might come in handy later. That's strange. What does it mean?
What's that piece of paper?
It looks like King Black's been noting down a few things about the opening.
Opening?
You know, the best way to start a game of chess.
Now that is something I'd really like to know. Which piece do I start with? There are so many possibilities, but which ones are good and which ones are bad?
Let's take a closer look.
You know what would be really good? A kind of super move that you only had to memorize and then you'd always win.
I'm afraid there's no such thing in chess. And let's face it, it would be boring if there was. Whether a move is good or bad always depends on you and your opponent. But there are a few useful tricks. The point is to protect yourself well from behind while making sure you are in the right position to attack with your horns. Like a bull. No one can get past you in a hurry then.
Hey, cool.
You'll never be able to get it exactly like that, of course, because your opponent will be making things difficult for you. But you can always try to get as close as possible to the bullhead at the beginning. Then you're in a really good position for the rest of the game. Let's forget our opponent for a minute and just look at our moves. That's a pretty clever move to start with. Now, the two pawns are taking care of the middle of the board. You should always have something standing around in the middle of the board, because that's a very important place. But you should also try not to move the pawns too much at the beginning, because they can't move back if things get tricky. So to start with, let's concentrate on the knights and the bishops. The two knights move in towards the middle, where they can be put to much better use. They're always a bit lost on the sides.
I guess their horses need space to gallop around.
That's right. So let's say they are the bull's ears. And now, here come its pointed horns. They're pointing towards the center, too, and that's precisely where the opponent has to pass. By the way, the horns can even be a bit longer. That would certainly do no harm, like this. Your knights and bishops are already busy making life difficult for your opponent. Now we can decide what to do with the other more valuable pieces, like the queen and the rooks. The rooks need a bit of room, so we move the queen out of the way first. It might be a good idea to castle next, for two very good reasons. The king is kept in safety, behind the pawns, and the rooks are brought together, which is very practical, because then they can protect each other.
Which direction is it actually best to castle in? To the right or to the left?
You can do either. It depends what your opponent does. The rooks can whiz around on the back rank wherever they want. They're usually pretty well placed in the middle.
But they can't get out from back there.
No need to panic. As soon as the first pieces are captured at the front, there'll be plenty of space. A well-posted rook like this is an almost unbeatable secret weapon. You can also use it to protect your own pawns.
There's the bullhead again.
That's right. And it's probably best if we take another good look at it. Bullish forehead. Attentive ears. Dangerous horns. And nostrils flared in anger. Added to that, the queen and king There's no easy way past here, that's for sure.
Fantastic! But I'm not sure if I can remember all that so quickly.
You don't have to. Your opponent will never allow you to create the perfect bullhead anyway. But if you can get somewhere close, you're doing very well. On the first move alone, you've got a whole range of possibilities. For example, any of your 8 pawns can move 1 square forward. Or, alternatively, 2 squares. That's 16 possibilities altogether just for starters.
And each of the knights can move onto 2 different squares. That makes a total of 20 possibilities just on the first move.
But which of them are worth doing and which aren't?
You see, that's just the question. Basically, anything that creates space is good. So, get the knights moving and make way for the bishops. This is a very good move, for example. And it has another big advantage. You've placed something in the middle. These 4 squares in the middle are particularly important, and whoever is in control of them is in a very good position.
And the rooks. Shouldn't we try to make room for the rooks first?
We'll save the rooks and the queen for later. At the beginning, it's more important to get the knights and the bishops into the game. And of course, as your opponent, I want to do exactly the same thing. Make room for my knights and bishops, and at the same time, defend those important squares in the center.
Couldn't you do something like this? Then our pawn couldn't move any further either.
Good idea. Now my bishop can get out, and I can get busy in the center. But you can make a clever move, too. Namely, getting a knight out to attack my pawn at the front there. Can you see what I mean? Exactly. My pawn is being threatened and could easily be taken. But I can gallop into action with a knight who can protect the pawn.
And the bishops? You said they should be used at the beginning, in the opening too.
That's right. So, get one of your bishops off on its way. By the way, getting a piece out is called development. This development isn't bad at all, because we've killed 2 birds with 1 stone. The bishop is taking care of the center and at the same time threatening this measly pawn, which is only being protected by the king. And that could go very wrong at a later stage. But I'm not just lazing around either, and I do exactly the same thing on my side. Boing! Who knows? Maybe I'll mount an attack here later on.
And what about the other knights?
Get them into the action, and get them as close to the middle as possible, 'cause a knight on the rim is ugly and dim. Right, and then you can make room for your other bishop who's standing around at the back doing nothing special right now. I'll make room for my bishop too. There we go. And now you develop your second bishop.
Exactly. Because it wants to be part of the action up front as well.
The opening is more or less finished now. In other words, the preparation for the actual contest. By castling, you could put the king in safety in a corner and take care of the rooks and the queen. Then, all of the important pieces are well positioned for the game. What comes next is the real battle. That's called the middle game. And when there are hardly any pieces on the board, it's called the ending, or end game.
Center, development, middle game. I'll never be able to remember everything so quickly.
That doesn't matter. For one, I'll be happy to explain things to you again. And for another thing, these aren't rules. They're just recommendations.
I see. So this is King Black's cheat sheet.
And if I'm not mistaken, you'll find it says exactly what I've been telling you.
And now we know everything he knows.
It's usually advisable to take care of the center. In other words, the 4 squares in the middle. Bring knights and bishops into the game as soon as possible. Don't move the queen too soon. Good castling protects the king and brings the rook into the game at the same time. It's best not to move any piece twice at the beginning of a game, unless, of course, there's a good reason for doing so. In the opening, you shouldn't move the pawns too much. The moves with the pawns are mostly to help develop the other pieces. Listen, I'm going to say some things about the opening. Some of them are true, and some are silly. And you have to click on right or wrong, okay? The queen shouldn't be developed too soon. Don't move your pawns unless you have to. Pay attention to your knights and bishops to start with. Whatever you do, get your opponent in check whenever you can. Try to take possession of the center, that is, the middle of the board. Pawns should always be positioned as far forward as possible. Yes!
Moths.
They aren't moths. They're eye-cuties, also known as ELOs. They're completely harmless, and actually, they're a good sign.
A sign? Of what?
Of chess IQ, my boy. These little mites are attracted to your chess IQ, which is why they're called eye-cuties. The higher it is, the more ELOs you'll find fluttering around.
Oh, I see. These eye-cuties are really quite cute.
Move first the bishops and the knights, and pawns can help them on their way, while rooks are best kept out of sight till castling sets them free to play.
Does that mean we've improved our chess IQ now?
It does indeed, my lad.
Attack and Protect-O-Matic.
Crazy! A freezer!
Nonsense. It's a chess trainer. I've always wanted to get myself one of these.
And why didn't you then?
No money, my boy.
Aha! This is all about ice cream. No wonder Chester likes this machine so much.
Nonsense. As long as it's got nothing to do with cheese, I have a purely professional interest.
In that case, I'm sure you can explain to us what it's all about.
Sure can. Let's imagine we both want the ice cream that the knight is holding. Or would it be better if I explained it with cheese?
Ice cream is fine.
Okay, both teams want it, and they both send their troops in one after the other to fight over it. Who gets it in the end?
We do, of course. The whites.
The point is, you don't really have to fight over the ice cream to find out who gets it. You can simply work it out.
Work it out? How do you do that?
You just count up the pieces. The whites have got 1, 2, 3 pieces who can hold on to the ice cream. The purple team has only got 1, 2 pieces. White has got 1 more, and so is sure to win this little contest.
You mean white gets the ice cream?
Yep, that's right. Let's try it out. Who gets the ice cream if white starts?
Let's take a count. We can grab the ice cream with 1, 2, 3 of our pieces. And you can get it with 1, 2 pieces. We get the ice cream.
That's true, but you'll probably choke on it, because you have to forfeit your queen to get it. And nothing is worth that much. The pieces are worth different amounts, as you know.
Exactly. There's something in my organizer about that. The queen is worth the most. She's worth as much as 9 pawns. Then come the rooks. They're each worth 5. Then the knights and the bishops. They're each worth 3.
Very good, Bianca. To make it easier, we can work it out in scoops of ice cream. Let's take a closer look. The queen starts by taking on the knight. It's worth 3 scoops of ice cream. So that's 3 scoops for white. But I make a quick comeback, and with my measly little pawn, I win 9 big fat scoops of ice cream. Just one pathetic little scoop for you. That's a poor deal for a queen. 5 points for Gryffindor. I mean for me. And 5 scoops for you, too. Final score? 14-9 for me. So, you might have won the square that everyone was fighting over.
But you've got the most ice cream. Yuck, and our ice cream is already melting.
But watch out. The biggest ice cream in the world won't do you any good if you're checkmate afterwards.
Well, that's pretty obvious, really, isn't it?
Here's a case in point. Everyone wants the knight's ice cream. Who gets it if it's white's move?
Let's count up. 3 scoops of ice cream for white.
Because a knight's worth 3 scoops.
Boing. 5 scoops for purple. White fights back and gets the most scoops.
But watch out. What's the good of all that ice cream if in the end, the ice cream parlor goes bust? Check.
Help!
The white rook interposes. But that doesn't help for long. Checkmate.
Well, if it's really that dangerous, I'll never eat ice cream again. Or maybe I will.
A game to train your eye.
Aha! The machine's gonna set us a task.
Click on the piece that isn't defended well enough.
Defended?
You could also say protected. And pay attention to whose move it is. Absolutely right, my boy. Wonderful. The swallow flying high is a sign of good weather, and the ELOs are a sign that you're getting better and better at chess.
The one who counts the pieces right might make the move that wins the fight.
That's neat.
I am a Check-O-Matic.
This is fascinating. A machine that helps you practice getting out of check in a fun way. My friends, I am very impressed. I've always wanted to have a go on one of these. There may be a lot of bad things about King Black, but he has a first-class collection of chess machines.
Hey, who said you could do that? Don't touch my machines.
Great. What are we supposed to do? Sit around here doing nothing until we're blue in the face? Or should I say black?
Yes. That's precisely what I had in mind. And above all, keep your hands off my machines. My Damiano Mate-O-Matic. My Super-Giga-Mega-O-Matic. Do you hear me? Touching them is strictly forbidden.
Oh, great. That makes it all the more fun.
Everyone finds themselves in check at some time, but there's no need to panic. There are 3 things you can do to get out of it. Here's number 1. What can the king do to get away from the queen? It's quite simple. Move away. He hasn't actually got any other choice.
Sorry, Your Highness. Move.
So, moving away the king is a good way of getting out of check. Here's the second way of getting out of check. What can you do here? Fritz can't move away his king because he's being threatened by that knight and this bishop. But there's another possibility. When you've worked it out, click on the chessboard.
I've got it. We just put something in the way.
And that something is this nifty knight. Zap. Problem solved.
Hey, now Chester's in check.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And, pardon me for mentioning it, but one more move and it would be checkmate.
You shouldn't have said that. Checkmate.
Okay, we have to remember, the second thing we can do when we are in check is...
Put something else in the way.
Whatever we happen to have at hand.
Here's the third way of getting out of check. Let's try and solve this problem. Fritz, you're well and truly in check. You can't move away and you can't interpose a piece, that is, put another piece in between. But it still isn't checkmate. What can you do? Think about it and click on the board when you've worked it out.
I've got it.
Exactly. You quite simply capture the bishop which is threatening you. And now things are looking much better for you again. So, capturing is another possibility.
Phew, thank goodness. It always makes me nervous when someone puts me in check.
But it's really no problem at all, so long as it's check without mate. There are 3 things you can do. Number 1, move your king away. Number 2, interpose a piece, that is, put another piece in between. And number 3, capture the attacker.
How can you get out of check? Click on the right answer.
There, you see? Now this wonderful machine is going to give you the chance to try things out in practice.
The Whose Turn button will show you whose turn it is. Capturing is the right thing to do. Good, you've interposed a piece. Excellent.
Capture, move away, interpose, get out of check with one of those.
Like I said, they're a good sign.
That we're learning.
Yep, that's right.
I am a set Check-O-Matic.
A set Check-O-Matic. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would live to see this. It's a miracle.
What do you do with it?
You play, and at the same time, improve your skills, my boy.
In that case, let's take a look at it.
Click on all the pieces that can put the opponent in check on their next move.
You what? I don't get that.
I do. We just have to click on all the pieces that can put the opponent in check on their next move.
But we're also talking about pieces that just get out of the way and leave another piece free to deliver check.
Okay. Well, let's try then.
Hey, we've made it into the high score.
Well done.
If the way to check you see, click away and the winner you'll be.
Hey, you know what? These ELOs are really cute.
And they're a sure sign that your chess IQ is growing.
You can go further here.
I wonder where this door leads to.
Is that the way out there?
Come on, let's go and look.
This is an Elosophical Elevator. It measures your velocity and brings you onto higher floors once you have enough velocity.
Oh, I see. That's what King Black was talking about. But what is velocity?
Elosity simply means the number of ELOs which are swarming around your head, attracted by your chess IQ. The more ELOs you have, the higher you can go in the elevator. I think that thing up there is the chess IQ counter.
Well, the best chess player amongst us should just go and stand underneath it.
And that's Chester, of course.
Exactly. With my breathtaking chess trainer's velocity, I'll catapult this elevator right through the roof. Now, what do you have to say to me, you electric thingy?
The ELO test is now beginning. No test object for the ELO test has been found. Please put in a test object.
Sugar. I'm too small, as always.
Shall we try? We're bigger.
Yes, but I'm afraid you'll need more ELOs.
This place needs to be cleaned. Here's another scrap of paper.
I'll put it in my organizer. They seem to go together somehow.
I am the discovered Check-O-Matic.
The discovered Check-O-Matic. A moment to be savored. Having a chess machine like this is like being a race car driver with two engines in your car. We simply have to take a closer look at this, my friends. Let's take a look. Things really aren't looking too bad for me here. I've still got my queen, and could just sit back and feel pleased with myself. But you whites have got another secret weapon. X-ray vision. Your rook is already lying in wait, looking straight through the knight at me, the purple king.
Hey, that's mean.
Your knight only has to hop out of the way, and I would be well and truly in check.
What are we waiting for?
And where to?
Anywhere'll do.
Wait, if your knight just moves any old where, he might miss the chance of his life, because there's one square he could move to, which is far better than any other. Can you tell which one it is?
I think so.
Well then, get your knight moving.
And check.
That's right. That was exactly the right move.
Our rook has got you in check, and our knight is attacking your queen at the same time.
There's nothing more you can do. You've got to get out of check. And our knight bags your queen.
Precisely. And the rest is a formality. By the way, X-ray vision is officially known as discovered check, because when you move a piece, the king discovers he's in check. In this case, you moved the knight.
Great, that makes sense.
Now let's look at a special kind of X-ray vision. Double X-ray vision, also known as double check.
Let's see. Our rook is using his X-ray vision to keep a check on King Chester. Our knight only has to jump out of the way, and before you know it, you're in check.
Quite right. And which is the best place for your knight to move to? Come on. Where?
No idea. But as you're asking, I guess there must be one place which is better than all the others, right?
Certainly is. Think about it, and move your knight to the right square. Aha! And now you've got me in double check. Once with your rook, and once with your knight.
You could capture both with your queen, but not both at the same time.
Well spotted. So you haven't only managed to deliver check, it's also checkmate.
Either use your X-ray vision to capture a more valuable piece or to mate the king. You can only take the given number of moves.
It's a great machine, isn't it?
It sure is.
Check. And mate, too.
Now he's fritzed out.
With double and discovered check, your enemy's at his weakest yet.
And you've got more chess IQ than ever before.
Wow, brilliant. This is going to be fun.
Just the right thing for little boys. Can I try too?
I am the ultimate, a combination of mousetrap and chess machine.
Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Can you see that poor rat down there?
Yes, of course.
And those terrible mouse traps up there. Can you see them too?
I am the ultimate. The rat is mine. Unless you manage to hit the mousetraps before they reach the bottom. If you feed the mice along the way or hit the super cat at the end, you can get extra points.
Great, I love games like this.
Listen, you must promise me something. You must help that poor rat down there.
Of course we will.
Use the arrow keys to move around. and use the space bar in the middle of the keyboard to fire.
Got it. Then let's get going.
But I want to play too, okay?
Thanks for giving your all against the mousetraps.
Don't mention it.
A rank is of no use to you if it lets the enemy through.
Dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum, ELO, sing your song.
I am a pin-o-matic.
Oh, wow. That sounds dangerous.
It is, but only for the one who gets pinned. An extremely useful piece of apparatus, if I may say so. Okay, you two, the pin. It's a way of nailing a piece down. Can be very useful. Take a look here. From my bishop's point of view, the white king and his knight are standing in a row. So he decides to attack them. All of a sudden, the poor knight can't escape because otherwise his king would be in check.
That's a real bummer. What a mean trick.
Precisely. We say the bishop has pinned the knight.
Yeah, but couldn't white just send a pawn into the rescue? Then at least the knight would be covered.
That's right, but we can attack the knight yet again. And what better way this time than with a measly pawn? We don't mind white taking our pawn if we get his knight in return. And that, my dear friends, is the golden rule. If a piece is pinned, what should you do? Well, Bianca?
Capture, I suppose.
Nonsense. Then the pin is no use anymore. What you do is attack. If you've got pieces pinned, try to attack them again. Keep the pressure on. The knight still can't move because the king would then be in check. So the king has to run away and then the knight is free to go.
Now we can take him.
That's right. Take that. We've got him. He's welcome to the pawn. We'll get it back in a minute anyway.
What now?
And now we can move our pawn across to the other side and promote it to a queen. And all that thanks to a bit of good old pinning.
Pin a piece in one move.
Exactly. Couldn't be better.
We do know what we're doing.
Attack the enemy once, then twice, so that's what makes a pin so nice.
And another tip. To pin, use a piece that is worth as little as possible and which you can afford to lose.
Your wish is my command, Grandmaster. I think we've now checked everything out around here.
Shall we have another look in the elevator and see if we can get any further?
Good idea.
The IQTs, or ELOs, that scientists call Elosophila, by the way, are attracted to your chess IQ. The more the person in question has, the more ELOs there are swarming around their head. For a long time, the Elosophila were an unknown species. It was only after a few chess players complained about the annoying buzzing noises made by their opponents that scientists found out that they were surrounded by Elosophila. Velocity is the word given to refer to the number of IQTs around your head. Your chess IQ is measured in ELO points. A fairly good beginner will have an ELO rating of around 800.
Capture, move away, interpose, get out of check with one of those. If the way to check you see, click away and the winner you'll be. With double N discovered check, your enemy's at his weakest yet. Attack the enemy once, then twice, so that's what makes a pin so nice. The one who counts the pieces right might make the move that wins the fight. Move first the bishops and the knights, and pawns can help them on their way, while rooks are best kept out of sight, till castling sets them free to play. A rank is of no use to you if it lets the enemy through.
You have enough velocity to go to basement levels 1 and 2.
Wow, that's really wicked.
Basement level 2.
Can't wait to see what happens.
Fantastic! It's just fantastic here!
If you ask me, you're overreacting a bit.
I agree. It would be fantastic if there was a way out of here, for example, but there are only machines.
Try to understand me. When I was still a poor little rat and lived in a hole in a sewer pipe, I used to dream about these exact same chess machines. But I never believed that one day I'd be allowed to use one. And now, suddenly, all of them are here.
Hey, keep your dirty little hands off my chess machines. You haven't got a clue what they cost. And in any case, I need them to be the best chess player in the land.
You don't stand a chance.
Be quiet and don't touch my machines or else...
Or else what? Are you gonna throw us out? Go on then.
Ah, you snotty-nosed, just you...
Come on, let's continue.
Are you going to put that scrap of paper in your organizer?
Yep. I think it's trying to tell us something.
But what?
Enigma, the great riddle.
Another useful machine. You can work out cryptic symbols and break secret codes using this.
Practical.
It's a secret code used to write down chess moves. Once you've understood it, you can write down your games or replay other games. Basically, it works like a map. The squares are named after the letters A to H and the numbers 1 to 8.
We already know this.
Really? Perhaps I'm underestimating you.
Whatever makes you think that?
Let's see, shall we? So, a move is always made up of 2 squares, the square you're leaving and the one you're going to. This move from E2 to E4 is written like this. To make it even clearer, there's a hyphen in the middle. Purple now moves from E7 to E5. Can you do it? Exactly. And to be really sure that you're moving the right piece, some capital letters help you. They are written in front of the move. You write B for bishop and K for king, and so on. As knight and king both begin with K, you write an N for the knight to avoid confusion. For example, this knight is on G1, so you write N G1. He moves to F3, so we write NG1 hyphen F3.
And so you write a capital P for pawn?
No, that's another exception. You don't need to write a letter in front of a pawn move.
But it's capital R for rook, is it? It's only the pawn that doesn't need anything.
Right. Now do this one. Wonderful! There are also symbols for check, capturing a piece, castling, and so on. For instance, if you capture a piece, you put a small X instead of a hyphen. Like this. The knight, N, on F3 captures the pawn on E5.
I want to have a go at capturing 2.
Okay. Then try this move. Now it continues with capital Q. What could the capital Q stand for?
Capital Q, let me think.
Queen, of course.
That's right. Now you can write down the next move. Use the keys on the right, and once you've written down the move, press the red button.
A red button? Great!
Take a close look.
The queen moves from D1 to E2.
Exactly. And now purple. The knight moves from E4 to F6.
Capital N. That's the knight from E4 to F6.
On the nose. And now, knight from E5 to C6.
Okay, capital N, E5 to C6. Hey, that's check.
Well spotted, Bianca. The purple king is now in check. And so that it's clear in the notation, you put a small cross after the move.
Isn't that actually a plus sign?
Call it what you will. Now, the purple queen moves from D8 to E7.
That's easy. Capital Q for queen from D8 to E7.
And this move?
The queen, capital Q, goes from E2 to E7 and captures the queen. And check.
And how would you write that?
So, capital Q, E2, X, E7, and a cross at the end because the purple king is now in check. Not a very good move.
But excellent for explaining things. And so it goes on. Until there's something new to show you. Like when purple castles.
How's that written down?
2 zeros with a hyphen between them, as there are 2 squares between the king and the rook. That means castling kingside, so towards the king. Castling queenside, that is to the other side, towards the queen, is written with 3 zeros, because there are 3 squares between them. Let's continue. Write down this move. Exactly. Now there are only a few special moves left, which I'd rather explain to you using a new position. They're really going at it here. White thinks that he's going to win, and so makes this move. But purple can save himself by capturing the pawn.
How? That's not allowed.
But of course it is, en passant.
Oh yeah, I remember reading about that in my organizer. And how do you write en passant with these strange hieroglyphics?
E dot, P dot. And it's written directly after the move. Wherever the knight now moves, I can easily mate white.
And how do we write checkmate? With a cross, too?
Not quite. With 2 crosses. Try writing it down. Well done.
What happens if I manage to get a pawn across the board and exchange it for another piece?
Oh, yes, I almost forgot. You write the piece after it. Got it?
So the pawn moves from f7 to f8 and is promoted to a queen.
Exactly. Here are all the hieroglyphics in one go. The capital letter at the beginning stands for the piece, capital N for knight, capital R for rook, and so on. If there isn't a capital letter, it's a pawn. Then you write the square which the piece is leaving, followed by the square it's going to.
And between the squares, there's a hyphen. But if it captures something, there's a small X.
Check is a cross, a plus sign, which is added at the end. And you put 2 crosses to show its mate.
Castling kingside, 2 zeros with a hyphen between them. Castling queenside, 3 zeros with hyphens between them. En passant is written E dot, P dot after the move.
And if a pawn is promoted, then the first letter of the new piece is written at the end.
Exactly. That's all there is to it.
Phew! Am I glad about that?
Okay, let's see if you've understood everything correctly or not. I'll replay one of my better games, and you can try to write down the moves using the hieroglyphics, okay? When I make a move, you write it down, and when you've finished, you can print the whole thing out.
Sounds interesting.
By writing down your every move, your greatness you can always prove.
Forks and skewers.
That reminds me of something.
Oh, really?
Yes, of the Pleasantville Village Olympics.
This machine is a miracle of technology. It's all about learning how to create a simultaneous threat using a fork. And that means that you...
Simply have to get 2 things in your sights at once.
Huh? What? Where did you learn that?
We've seen something like it before, in Pleasantville at the Village Olympics. You had to feed 2 pigs at the same time there. I also know what that means here. Your knight can jump in such a way that it attacks the king and queen at the same time, can it?
Quite right, Bianca. You astonish me.
The knight puts the king in check, so he has to move and can't pay attention to the queen. The knight can then have his wicked way with her.
There's nothing more to add. Except perhaps that knights are particularly good at this because it's difficult to predict what they're going to do. And of course, you should always be on the lookout that your opponent's knight doesn't have a chance to fork you. And this is the other technological wonder, chess kebab, so to speak. the Skewer. It means that
We know all about that, too. From Pleasantville. If two pieces are standing one behind the other, you get loads of points. This is how you do it.
I'm speechless. What do you still need me for? Oh, well, maybe to say that you can, of course, skewer other pieces. For instance, rooks. There are two white rooks on a diagonal, like two nice pieces of meat for a purple bishop kebab.
Your bishop now moves in and spikes them from behind.
He can now take at least one rook. This one moves away, and this one has had it.
And this must be another fork, 'cause of the knight.
Nope, that's a skewer, 'cause of the bishop.
You're both right. It's a combination of a skewer and a fork. My queen is not in such a bad position, but we're in line to be skewered and made into one of those kebabs, which the white bishop finds so tasty. And now he moves in for the kill.
That wasn't very clever, 'cause now you can simply take him.
I can take him, sure. But it was still a good move.
Oh, I see. Now comes the fork.
Exactly. And unfortunately, my queen will now find herself on the end of a fork. I have to escape. And that's the end of my queen.
What happens next?
King White can now move his pawn to the back rank. And then he gets a new queen, with which he can simply checkmate me.
Sorry about that, Chester.
We're only practicing.
Task: win a piece using a fork or skewer.
Now you can show whether you've got the hang of it or not. That was a nasty skewer. That was like the forks in my grandma's silver cutlery set.
What do you know? I'm the greatest skewerer in the world.
Nervous, scared, and full of fear, two pieces are in danger here. You'll need to fight with all your might if fork or skewer are in sight.
Soon we'll be able to go in the elevator again.
Hole-O-Matic.
A Hole-O-Matic. That's a bit like one of the other games we played before.
The one with the mousetraps and the cheese?
Yep, that had something to do with holes too. Believe it or not, this is another one of those action games you love so much.
Hey, there are loads of pieces on the board. I think we'd better have a look at this first.
Looks to me as though the pieces have been developed quite nicely on both sides. Knights and bishops are already out, and some of them have already been captured. And King Purple has also already castled.
And that's exactly where the problem lies. King Purple has hidden himself behind a thick wall of pawns. How can we get him out of there? Quite easily, really. We just blast a hole in the wall of pawns.
Sounds good, but how do we do it?
By firing at them, the way you fired at the mousetraps before. Only, we're not firing cheese. We're firing knights.
Huh? I don't think I get it. You didn't say we're firing knights, did you?
You got it. That's exactly what we're gonna do. Check.
Hey, that's really stupid. Now the knight can be captured.
So, who cares? If purple captures with the queen, she'll be taken too, 'cause the bishop is here. So he uses the pawns, and now we've got exactly what we wanted. The protective wall in front of the king has been breached, and we can get to him.
So we make a hole in his wall of pawns.
Exactly. And now his rook gets chased away. Scram! Okay, it might have been better to have left his rook where it was, but it's too late now, because his mother-in-law is on the warpath.
Who?
The queen. Check! Help! Cries the king, and flees to the corner. He doesn't have any other choice, really. And that's it. The next move, it's checkmate.
I know what to do!
Bingo! Mate! And here's another example. It's a similar situation to the last one, but the other way around. White has castled and hidden himself behind his pawns. Bishops and knights are out as they should be, and this bishop has pinned the knight.
Because otherwise the queen is a goner. And the knight now charges in to break through the wall of pawns. Check.
By the way, it doesn't always have to be the knight who breaches the wall. It just happens that it is in this case. And here, the hole is as big as the ones in Swiss cheese. And now the bishop sees his chance. Once again, the rook runs off without thinking, and we can deliver mate in 2 moves.
Now the queen is on the warpath.
The king squirms off. Mate.
Beautiful.
Mate your opponent. The number of moves you have to do it in is given on the right.
Well, I think we're done.
Yes, my boy. Mate. Check and mate. That's exactly how it should be.
The expert is impressed. Look, the IQTs are back.
Safe behind his wall of pawns, the rival king feels strong. But make a hole and break the wall, and soon he'll know he's wrong.
Oh dear. That looks like King Black's puppet show.
Well, it'll be a change.
Hello, kids and sewer rats! Are you all sitting comfortably?
Who's that?
Leave him alone. Hi! Yes, we are!
Well, blow me over backwards. Let's see how good you are and whether you know everything you should. Here are a few special questions for you. You just have to click on the right answer.
And supposing we don't know the right answer?
Then click on the wrong one. And boing! Here's the first question. Questionable question number 2. Yoo-hoo! So here's the next question, if that's all right with you. And now we move on to question number 4. And now a special question for the brainiest amongst you. Yoo-hoo! Right! That was a great puppet show! Bye for now! That was another stunning performance with lots of right answers.
Only if you don't act dumb can you make the ELOs come, cause an ELO only flies around a person who is wise.
So what does it feel like to be lost right down in the lowest basement?
What do you mean lowest basement? We've already moved up one.
What? You can't have done! How did you manage that?
In the Elosophical Elevator, of course.
But I was sure the mechanism was far too complicated for snotty-nosed kids.
To be honest, it wasn't difficult at all.
What?
And now shut up, Blackie. We want to play on your forbidden machines a little longer. Another scrap of paper. What shall we do with it?
Why not put it in your organizer?
These scraps of paper are strange.
I am programmed for the end game.
Wow, a real endgame trainer, with all the bells and whistles and opposition included.
Oppo what?
Opposition. It helps you turn a pawn into a queen in the endgame.
Pawn ending? What's that supposed to mean, for goodness sake?
An ending or endgame is when most of the pieces on the board have been captured and there are only a few left in the game. And if the few that are left are only pawns, we call it a pawn ending. A bit like this pawn and Fritz and me here. Imagine I had turned to stone, so I couldn't move anymore. What would you do?
Well, that's easy. Hop, 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 hop. Now my pawn is promoted to a queen. Check. Actually, it's mate, seeing as you're made of stone and can't get away.
So it's quite clear that the pawn has no choice but to move forward square by square. But what would I do if I wasn't made of stone?
You'd try and capture the pawn, I suppose.
Precisely. The pawn doesn't stand a chance when it's fighting a single-handed battle against a king who's not made of stone. But as luck will have it, the White King is still waiting around in the wings, and together you could still beat me.
This we have got to see.
Okay, first and foremost, this is the square where we want to promote the pawn to queen. If King Fritz manages to protect this square, I haven't got a chance. And how can he protect it? Easy as pie. He just positions himself next to it and takes possession of one of these squares. A dream of a move, don't you think? And that's why I call these squares dream squares. Your pawn has made excellent progress here and is heading straight for the square where it wants to get promoted. King Fritz is right at his side, offering protection and trying to find a way to get onto one of the dream squares, while at the same time making sure that I, the evil Chester, don't snap it up in the process. We stand face to face, our swords drawn, but neither of us can do the other any harm, because if either of us moved on to one of these squares, we'd be in check.
I know what that's called. A possum.
Opposition. A king isn't allowed to stand next to another king. But the important thing is, whose turn is it? Let's say it's your turn. What are you going to do?
I'd say we move our pawn forward. Then we can promote it and it can't be captured because it's protected. Oh, and by the way, check.
Okay, I'm getting out of the way. What now?
I've got to go behind the pawn, haven't I? Well, yes, it looks a bit like...
Stalemate, my lad! I can't move anywhere without moving into check. The pawn there can check me, and those other squares are all within reach of the white king's sword. So, it's a draw.
It would have been better if you'd moved to the right, I think, Fritz.
Do you reckon? Well, let's have a look. So, Fritz moves to the right instead of to the left. Suddenly, the pawn isn't covered anymore, and thwack! Purple king knocks it off. And when only 2 kings are left, no one can win. It's a draw.
And what if Fritz had just moved back?
Exactly the same thing. And anyway, he doesn't want to go back. He's trying to get onto his dream squares. Okay, let's make this quick. Hop, 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 back you go. I'll get to the point. It would have been better if it had been my turn instead of yours.
What makes you say that?
Because I would have had to leave opposition. You know the thing about the sword squares? There's a saying about opposition. If you're in it, it's great. But move out and meet your fate. The pawn moves forward a square because it's protected and can't be captured.
Things aren't looking too good for you now.
Exactly. These squares are completely out of the question. They're being threatened by the pawn and by the white king's sword on the other side. There's only one square I can move to.
I see. Now King Fritz can move on to his dream square and protect the pawn while it's promoted.
Sorry, Chester. Things really aren't looking too good for you. The pawn is threatening you here. And the swords are drawn there. So you have to go here.
And here's our queen waiting to checkmate you. I'm really sorry, Chester.
We all have to lose sometime. The main thing is you've more or less understood how it works. Now have a look at this. Once again, what you're aiming to do is to get the pawn over to the back rank so that it can be exchanged for a queen. It's in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th row, counting from your side. And King Fritz is standing next to it to give it some help.
But you want to stop us, right?
Right. But it's not a question of what I want to do. It depends what I can do. And now we come to the key question, namely the key squares. If King Fritz manages to get onto one of the 6 key squares, you've as good as won the game.
Show us how, then.
Here you are already on one of the key squares. Of course, I bravely try to stand in your path. But then there's opposition to contend with. And as you know, if you're in it, it's great. But move out and meet your fate. Unfortunately, I haven't got any other choice.
Just a second. That's one of my whatchamacallit dream squares, isn't it?
Quite right. It allows the pawn to sail through to the back rank almost in its sleep. And no one, not even a purple rat, can do anything about it. The sword squares are protecting it. There's absolutely nothing I can do to stop it. Won't be long now.
Abracadabra, and here comes the queen.
These situations occur quite often in endgames. When only the kings are left on the board, a measly little pawn can really make the difference between victory and defeat. The smallest of advantages can be crucial, and the key squares will help you to see where your advantage lies.
A very cool trick, then.
Certainly is.
So I suppose you could say that the squares in front of the pawn are the key squares.
No, careful. That's only true if the pawn has already crossed the middle line. If it hasn't crossed the middle line, then there must be one row free between the pawn and the king, as a kind of buffer or backup area. So here there are only 3 key squares.
And why is that?
Move on to one, and I'll show you.
Yippee! I'm on a key square. I'm on a key square. Fiddlesticks! Now Chester's going into opposition.
Yep, there you have it. Now you can see why it's so important to have a backup area. When the pawn moves, then things will start to look different again, because I have to make a move of some sort too. And that means I'm forced out of opposition and have to meet my fate.
If you're in it, it's great.
But move out and meet your fate.
Dream square! Dream square!
Quite right. The square the pawn needs to get to so it can be promoted is thus kept under guard. The pawn can now stroll up to it at his leisure. There's absolutely nothing whatsoever I can do.
And we simply march on through. Check. Exactly. Out the way there. Check again. And now we've got our queen. Key squares are cool.
So remember, it's worth knowing which squares are the dream squares and the key squares, because you can save yourself a lot of thought and trouble.
It's a bit like having a cheat sheet in a test.
That's right. In a way, it's like being able to see into the future, because you know what's going to happen if and when you do something.
Like a kind of crystal ball.
That's right. So what do we have to remember?
If the pawn has crossed the middle line, the king has 6 key squares. If the pawn hasn't yet passed the middle line, the king has 3 key squares, and there has to be a free row between the king and the pawn.
Precisely. The better you understand that, the better you can play chess.
I think that was all a bit too quick for me.
We'll make you a cheat sheet then.
Try and win this pawn ending.
I don't think that should be too difficult.
Which piece shall I choose?
Once the center has been passed, the pawn has 6 squares in its sight, and onto any one of these, the king should move as fast as light. But when the middle's still ahead, there's only 3 squares that will do, and in between a row that's free, remember, that's important too.
These ELOs are really cool, aren't they?
You can say that again.
And what kind of machine is that?
That's a Silly-O-Matic. Very useful, but be careful. It's a bit different, because this one shows you what not to do. So don't try to imitate it.
Just you try and stop me.
Be it on your own head.
Ah, King Cleverclogs. Would you like to play a game?
Sure, King Dimwit, but you always lose against me.
King Dimwit and King Cleverclogs will now show us something which is so silly, it's called Fool's Mate. Oh well, that's one possibility, but there are actually better first moves, which occupy the center and also leave more space for bishops and knights.
A quick question. What should you do if you realize that your opponent isn't really all that good? Should you really thrash them?
Not at all. Just play normally and develop your position as well as possible. The rest will happen automatically.
Your first move wasn't very clever, King Dimwit, but I'll just carry on the way I always do.
Exactly. Just do what King Cleverclogs does. Then nothing can happen. Now here comes a really dumb move.
And what's so dumb about it?
At the beginning, you should make sure that your bishops and knights enter the game. And of course, because here the king is now completely unprotected. Queen Cleverclogs now has an easy job. Go on, finish off the white king. Mate in one move.
You what? What should we do?
Move the queen once so that King Dimwit is mated. Exactly. That's fool's mate. And by the way, that's the quickest possible mate.
Well, King Dimwit, what have you got to say to that now?
I demand a rematch.
Anything you say.
The mate known as Scholar's Mate is also particularly silly. King Dimwit and King Cleverclogs are ready for a rematch, and as usual, this time it's King Cleverclog's turn to open the game.
Hey, you won't beat me this time, Cleverclogs.
I fear I will. But let me say it in a little poem so that it doesn't hurt as much. A scholar thought it wise to play with half-closed eyes. Things started out quite well before great darkness fell. At first there was no threat, but then came tears and blood and sweat.
Why sweat? I thought that chess pieces were made of wood.
I think it just rhymes better.
The bishop and the knight move in to come and fight, but oh, what doom and gloom! The queen moves out. Zoom! Yet our scholar doesn't flee, nor danger does he see. Now, white has set the bait. Poor scholar, it's checkmate.
And so what's the move to mate King Dimwit?
You can work that out on your own. Well done!
And now to round it off, Queen whacks the pawn right out the way. The game is over. End of play. Well, you dimwit, you really did play rather stupidly.
May I also say something? You also played rather stupidly at one point, King Cleverclogs.
Me? When?
Well, let's go back again. Look here. That was actually extremely stupid.
Now, you just listen to me. I will not allow you.
Sorry, but that wasn't just stupid. That was mega stupid. First of all, the queen shouldn't enter the game at such an early stage. And secondly, King Dimwit could easily have defended himself.
Oh, really? How?
Well, let's ask our friends here. Which move should King Dimwit have made at this point? Have a try. Perfect! You can kill two birds with one stone. King Dimwit made a good opening move by bringing out his knight. At the same time, he defends himself against King Cleverclog's white queen, who now stands all on her own at the front and is a prime target.
If you choose your move with care, you won't be fooled, we do declare.
How cute.
I am the Sprint-O-Matic.
Huh, that's good. There's something you two should know. The machine solves all the problems which we didn't have without it. This Sprint-O-Matic works with the square rule. Can save you a lot of thinking.
Can it also do our homework for us?
I'm afraid I don't think so. This invention is a real blessing. It's a Sprint-O-Matic, because a healthy body has a healthy mind.
You mean if you do sport, you can think better?
That's right. And if you can think better, you know whether it's worth doing sport or not. Take a sprint, for example. Your pawn could race to the back rank with the aim of being promoted to a queen. To mate me with her wouldn't be a problem.
But would the pawn make it? I mean, surely you'd just sprint after it and try to stop it.
But maybe you wouldn't be able to catch up because the pawn is too fast.
That's exactly the point. With our super fit sporting brains, we can easily work it out using the sprinter square. It's always as big as the remaining distance to the back rank. And now for the rule. If I can enter this sprinter square, I can still get your pawn. If I can't, I don't stand a chance. Want an example?
Yes, please.
Otherwise, we'll never get our heads around it.
Good. Okay, it's your move. The sprinter square keeps getting smaller, and the purple king just can't get in. And again. It's as if the king cries, "Stop, not so fast." But it's too late, of course, and the pawn has already made it. Okay, that's how it ends if it's your move. So it obviously makes sense for the pawn to sprint off. It is promoted to a queen, And checkmating a king with a queen is a piece of cake. Look, same situation, but it's my move. Ha! Now I've suddenly reached the sprinter square. And now comes the long, painful, and pointless chase.
And Chester is in again. And stays in. Help!
There's the queen.
And now she's been had. Oh dear, that's what fame can do to you. So, if the king is in the sprinter square, he captures the pawn. If he's outside it, he can't do anything about it. What about here?
Whose turn is it?
Mine.
Okay, now let me think. The white pawn has 3 squares ahead of it, so the sprinter square covers 3 squares to the side. The sprinter square then looks like this. If it's Chester's move, I'd say he'll get the pawn, 'cause he'll enter the sprinter square on his first move.
Let's try it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the great sprint to the back rank. On your marks, get set, go.
And he's in the sprinter square. He's in and staying in. The pawn becomes a queen. But that doesn't help.
What did I tell you?
And now, time for a trick question. Can purple enter the sprinter square? Click on the right answer.
Whose turn is it?
Purple's. Ah, so you saw through my trick, did you? Well done. I sprint off. The pawn is allowed to move forwards 2 squares on its first move. If you take that into account, then the sprinter square is actually 1 square smaller than it usually is, and that puts me on the outside. And I can't catch up.
Go on, off you go. Get moving. Exercise is good for you.
No one can take her away from you now.
Can the opponent's king catch the pawn? Click on yes or no.
By the way, you only have a limited amount of time.
Top score not achieved.
Then let's try again.
Into the sprinter square you come to catch the pawn, and then you've won.
I must remember that.
You 2 kids are great.
I know. By the way, shall we try the elevator again?
Why not?
Nervous, scared, and full of fear, 2 pieces are in danger here. You'll need to fight with all your might if fork or skewer are in sight. Into the sprinter square you come to catch the pawn, and then you've won. If you choose your move with care, you won't be fooled, we do declare. Safe behind his wall of pawns, the rival king feels strong. But make a hole and break the wall, and soon he'll know he's wrong. Once the center has been passed, the pawn has 6 squares in its sight, and onto any one of these, the king should move as fast as light. But when the middle's still ahead, There's only 3 squares that will do, and in between a row that's free, remember, that's important too. By writing down your every move, your greatness you can always prove. Only if you don't act dumb can you make the ELOs come, cause an ELO only flies around a person who is wise.
You have enough velocity to go to all basement levels.
You're really coming along.
Basement level 3.
We've already come up quite a way.
Yes, my boy. It's not that easy to make it this far. You have to have a lot of savvy to get up here. Fantastic!
Oh, not more machines. When are we ever going to get out of here? That's what I want to know.
Don't give up. Can't be much longer now.
Here's another scrap of paper.
Do you think we're going to find any more?
No idea.
Deflection.
Incredible. King Black really has the most fantastic machines here.
Phew! This all looks pretty dangerous to me. And we wouldn't mind having one of those cakes either.
Well, you can have one too, if you do the right thing, with the queen.
But if I try and grab the cake for myself, that little slime ball of a rook back there is ready to grab it straight back again.
Not necessarily. You just have to distract the slime ball, and then you can have your cake and eat it.
And how do we do that?
You just send over a friend of yours who makes a bit of an idiot of him.
Bah.
Which, of course, he won't stand for.
I see. And then our queen can grab the cake from the purple team. And there's no one to take it back again.
Exactly. That's called deflection, which means distraction, and it's very useful.
Not to mention mean.
And what chance have we got of getting the cake here?
Maybe we can make one of our own.
Fritz, what do you think?
How about buying one?
Nonsense. How can you get the cake that's on the board?
No idea. Where is it for a start?
That's what you gotta find out for yourselves. Click on the piece you think might have the cake. You've got it. And how can we get the cake from the purple team without them noticing?
We've got to distract the bodyguard.
And who's the mean-looking one that needs distracting?
Let me think. Shall I click on it?
Yep, that's him all right. And which piece are you going to use to distract him and get him off his guard? Click on it.
I'd say this one.
That's right, Bianca. Right then, let's do it.
Bah.
And purple is not going to stand for treatment like that.
And now we can go in for the kill and grab the cake. Shall I click again?
No, this time you have to make a move. Easy when you know how.
Delicious.
Hey, I want some too.
Grab the cake.
So, who's protecting the cake and how can you distract them? The number of moves you need are shown on the side. Good. Perfect.
Hey, Bianca, I think he means us.
Look at all those ELOs over there.
If the cake's within your sight, distract the guard, then grab it tight.
Wow, that's a Super-Giga-Mega-O-Matic. Get to grips with that, and you'll have added more chess bites to your chess IQ than you can imagine. You'll be almost unbeatable.
But is it fun as well?
Well, what do you think?
Wait! What do you think you're doing up there? You're supposed to be on the bottom floor. You can't possibly have managed to work the Elosophical Elevator. You're far too small and stupid for that.
Oh, you reckon, do you?
We had the elevator worked out in no time, and now we're gonna get to grips with your Super-Giga-Mega-O-Matic.
You what? My dearest machine! My most precious one! My one and all! Keep your hands off, do you hear me?
Too late.
Okay then, this is how a Super-Giga-Mega-O-Matic works. It shows us a position, and you have to try and memorize it. The position then disappears, and when it comes back again, one of the pieces is missing, and you have to click on the square where it was standing. Then, before you know it, another piece disappears, and you have to click on both squares. Then 3 are gone, and you have to click on all 3 squares, and so on. You got it?
We'll soon see. What's up now?
You're getting too good for the Super-Giga-Mega-O-Matic. Now, it's gonna make it more difficult for you. You have to set up the position again exactly as it was using the pieces at the sides. And you can win a whole lot of bonus points if you get it right.
Then let's give it a try.
Hey, we're really good.
And what do you think of the Super-Giga-Mega-O-Matic, huh?
I'm pretty sure I've increased the storage space in my brain.
Whether black or white or red, all you need is in your head.
Hey, you two. Aren't you collecting these scraps of paper?
Give it to me. I'll put it in my organizer. And another one.
I think we've got almost all of them.
Mate-O-Matic.
Holy rats! This is the original 500 GTI Damiano Mate-O-Matic. You can always recognize the Damiano Mate-O-Matic by one small detail, and that's this pawn here.
What on earth's it doing there?
Causing trouble, and making a good job of it, too.
Oh, come on now. How can a wimp like that cause any real trouble? And anyway, the Purple King's got a pawn more than you in any case.
But that's not going to help him for very much longer, if you look carefully. That row of purple pawns has got more holes in it than a pair of old socks.
And Chester's pawn is out at the front there, trying to make itself look important. And it is as well. The king can't really move out of the way, or he'll be in check. And then the queen can make light work of it. She can swoop in and checkmate the Purple King.
Wow, who'd have thought one measly pawn could cause so much trouble?
Yep, it just has to have enough guts. This is the same thing again. The king isn't really safe behind the pawns because one of them is missing.
It's almost the same as last time. Whoosh! The queen comes swooping in and check.
And the poor king has to move away to try and get to safety.
And now it's the same as last time. My Damiano pawn is standing there puffing out its chest, behaving more like a bishop than a pawn.
And then along comes the queen.
And before you know it, checkmate.
What now?
Hey, that's the same thing again.
Not quite, but you're right in a way. Yet again, the aim is to move the queen into the corner, whilst Damiano's super pawn here is blocking the escape route.
But look at our wonderful rook here. Check, sweetie. Okay, so now we haven't got a lovely rook anymore. But our queen is much, much nicer anyway.
Bad luck. He has to crawl away into the corner again, and the rest is history. Checkmate. Thanks to our beautiful queen and the trusty Damiano pawn.
Find mate in the number of moves given.
Okay, then.
We've finished him off.
Well done. Checkmate.
Check and mate.
No one can fool us.
Find mate in the number of moves given.
Okay, then.
Damien our Damien, he's made of brains and brawn, which means to say there's more to him than just a measly pawn.
There they are again. We know even more about chess now.
The opening.
Oh, yes, an opening trainer. There are all different kinds of these, depending on where you buy them. Spanish, Italian, Sicilian, you name it.
And what kind is this?
King's Gambit.
Where on earth do you get one of these from?
From Gambia, I suppose.
There are a whole lot of different openings, and the King's Gambit is one of them. It's fast and furious. Not bad to begin with, because there's none of that long-winded toing and froing. You just get on with it. Slap, bang, wallop.
Sounds perfect to me.
There are always a few typical moves that give an opening away. These are the ones that tell you it's a King's Gambit. But after the opening, there's no saying how things will go on.
Can you show us that again?
All right, then. We've seen this opening move often enough before. Both teams use it to take possession of the center. And now, here it is. King's Gambit. Take a minute now to memorize this position.
Okay, but what does Gambit actually mean?
It means that you purposely sacrifice one of your pawns, namely the Gambit pawn. But not for nothing, you get something in return. It could be more room for your pieces, better squares, or it might just be a way of winning time to get yourself into a better position. Okay, let's see if you can remember now how the King's Gambit goes. How do you start? Show me. That's right. The pawn in front of the king hurries over to take control of the midfield. And then what do you do? And purple counterattacks with its own king's pawn. What now? That's right. Our trusty right pawn puts itself bravely at the mercy of its purple colleague. And there we have it, the starting position for the King's Gambit. Of course, you can't always be sure how your opponent is going to react. He might do one thing one time and another thing another time. But there are always one or two variations that keep coming up. And even if you can't remember how they all go, it's worth spending a bit of time getting the hang of them. Decide which variation you want to look at in more detail. And if you want me to shut up for a change, Just click on the loudspeaker. Have a good look at this. What do you notice?
Well, it all looks pretty miserable to me. The pawns who were supposed to be protecting my king have been captured, and your queen is in the perfect position to rush in and put the pressure on.
True enough. Things could get pretty sticky here if you're not careful. As I said, King's Gambit is fast and furious. Smack! Bang! But it's your move now. So, for example, you could take your time to develop your pieces and get out of danger.
You told us that bishops and knights should be brought into play as soon as possible at the opening. In that case, this knight would be the perfect thing for keeping your queen off our backs.
Right, but of course, I can play chess too, so I also try to develop my pieces. You could now use the time to go about securing the space that you have created by giving up your pawn. And that's the space smack bang in the middle, and with a brilliant view of the purple king.
Hang on a minute. You were the one who told us we shouldn't move the pawns too often at the beginning of a game.
True, but that was a recommendation and not a hard and fast rule. That last move was a real bargain, and you shouldn't let a 1 in a million chance like that slip through your hands too easily.
And what was so mega brilliant about it then?
It gave us the chance to take possession of the center, and you can launch an attack from there best. See what I mean? I've become a lot more cautious now. Gently does it. Just move this knight out.
And the same on the other side.
And just look how our bishops can slide into position now. I develop as well. And smack bang, you even get back the pawn you lost, because that one wasn't covered at all. And how do things look for white now? Excellent, if you ask me.
Just a minute. I've seen that somewhere before. It's the bullhead. Well, more or less, anyway.
Exactly. We've developed pretty well. Our bishops are out, our knights are out, we've got plenty of space, and we can now take our time and get our king into safety. For example, by castling. And that's an excellent starting position for a first-class attack.
Wow, that's really wicked. That's what I'm going to do every time I play from now on.
Not so fast. Hold your horses. There's no way of telling if purple will always react the way I did. He might do something really crazy and completely confuse you. So always remember to stay awake and concentrate. It's no good taking things for granted.
Do you want to play this position against me?
Why not try it out and see how you get on? Choose a color and off you go.
You told us to develop our knights as soon as possible in the opening. Shall we try that?
If you want, but it's my turn first. There.
Now here comes our knight, and he stops your queen moving over there and threatening our king.
Well done. Now I move a pawn towards the center, but I only move forward 1 square so that you can't capture it straight away. And it also means I can attack this square in the center so that your knight can't move there. And now you can collect your well-earned reward for letting me take your pawn. In return, you can move into the luxury suite in the center of the board with a wonderful view of me, the opposing king. These 4 squares in the middle are the ones everyone wants most. Whoever is in control of them is at a definite advantage.
What now? What good is that supposed to do?
I don't want to leave my pawn there out in the cold on its own. So let's see how things look. You've got the center well under control. You've developed your knight nicely, and there are a lot of different ways that you can continue.
And what about you?
No piece developed. Nothing in the center. A pretty ragged-looking row of pawns. Oh, yes, and 1 pawn more than you, of course.
And what happens next? I reckon we could develop the bishops and the other knight or something like that.
Doesn't sound too bad, but now try and work it out for yourselves. You've got yourself into a good starting position. You can start from here as often as you want.
Do you want to play this position against me?
Choose a color and then off you go. That is, if you want to. Gambit's like a birthday party. You give your opponent a present, and while they're busy unwrapping it, you eat all the birthday cake behind their back.
Happy birthday to you.
The knight protects the square the queen can move to.
The bishops should be developed as soon as possible, too, shouldn't they?
That's right. So let's do that, shall we?
Hey, just a second. Is that really such a clever move?
Hard to say, but there are two things in its favor. Firstly, the bishop is developed, and secondly, the square that you want to stop the queen from getting to is now in danger again because the knight can't protect it on his own.
And how can you counter that now?
Do you want to play this position against me?
Sure do. Learning by doing is the best way to learn. Continue the game and see what happens. Giving is better than taking, or so the saying goes, and the Gambit is a perfect example of that.
This is one time we don't mind giving up a pawn.
And then we can go on and develop our nice Mr. Knight here. What's going on now?
Well, I've decided I'm not going to hand the center over to you and your gang without a fight. It's just a variation on a theme.
And what can we do about that now?
Try it out in a game against the computer.
Do you want to play this position against me?
Just try it out until you think you've got the hang of it. And don't forget, this isn't a tournament. We're just practicing so that you can get to know a bit more about the King's Gambit. You can take back your moves as often as you want and try out different things. There are lots of other gambits, of course, as well as the King's Gambit, and they all have something in common.
And I know what that is. The Gambit pawn gets captured. Hey, wait a minute. What's going on now? You're doing something completely different.
I am indeed, because it isn't true that the Gambit pawn always has to be accepted. That's called declining the Gambit.
And you can do that, can you?
Why not? I can do what I want, can I?
Well, I don't know. I think that's a bit... I don't know, really.
Stay cool, Bianca. Develop the knight. Keep playing.
That's the way to do it.
Do you want to play this position against me?
Try out what works well and what doesn't work. You can always take back a move if you want.
To win some space or time or more, give up a pawn and don't feel sore.
What on earth? A microwave?
No, it's a PB oven with automatic advantage regulator. That is a position baking oven.
It's a what?
An oven. It bakes positions. It's a special device that makes food for your thoughts. You can bake your own positions in it.
Instructions. Set oven temperature to between 10 and 30 degrees. Teams worth between 10 and 30 pawn points will be provided. Your own temperature can be set up to 3 degrees higher. Your team will then be worth up to 3 pawn points more. Decide which team you want by clicking on the purple or the white button. The oven automatically bakes you a position and you then play it.
If you're not sure what to do, click on the question mark to hear the instructions again.
I've got a question already. What are pawn points?
Come on, we had that already. A queen is worth 9 pawns, a rook 5. Knights and bishops are worth 3 pawns.
Oh, yeah.
Mate. We're the greatest.
When a child is playing chess, don't think it's weak and small, for even though it might look less, it's as clever as you all.
These little mites are just so cute.
I am a ghost, and I am here to scare the living daylights out of you on King Black's orders.
The only thing I'm scared of is that I'm gonna laugh so much. Okay, let's not go into that any further.
I'm going now, but beware. I'll be back when you're least expecting it.
As if we'd be scared of a thing like that.
You'll be quaking in your boots when I suddenly appear somewhere completely different with no warning.
I'll believe that when I see it.
It's you against me now. You can either play with your own team of ghosts that all look the same, or if you prefer, you can play with invisible pieces. You get ghost points for every move. The more moves you manage to make, the more points you can win. The game ends when you make an illegal move, or if you ask to be shown the normal pieces, or if one team is checkmated.
And what's so scary about that, then?
Well, I thought, aren't you even a little bit frightened?
No way, we can even play against each other. We don't need any ghosts.
Whoa, what do you mean? That's too terrible to contemplate.
Why not? I could play against Fritz, or two friends could play against each other.
Or anyone who just happens to be sitting nearby. A friend, your mom or dad, or even your silly old big sister.
You mean you don't need me at all?
That's right. We can set everything up ourselves, can't we?
King Black won't like it at all if you aren't even scared of the invisible ones. Whoa.
Well, that's certainly not our problem. And anyway, if things really get too spooky, we can always ask for the normal pieces to be shown.
But you don't get any ghost points for them at all.
So what?
Who do you want to play against? Whoa. It's no fun being a ghost when no one out there's scared of me. Boo-hoo.
Oh, look, it's those cute little Elos again.
Once you know inside your head where your pieces are, just sit back and relax and know that you'll go far.
Have a look at this. Looks like you can find different kinds of openings on here.
Come on then, let's have a look at it.
I don't think that's a good idea. You see, openings are tricky things. There are so many of them, there are so many books about them, and in the end, you'll just want to try and learn them all off by heart without really understanding anything. No. The best thing you can do is to think it out for yourselves and save yourselves all that bother. Come on, let's move on.
Oh, come on, don't be such a spoil sport. Just a teeny-weeny look, please.
Yes, come on. We only want to have a look.
Okay, but we'll only look at a few, all right?
Anything you say.
Ah, yes. Here are the Spanish and Italian openings, the Queen's Gambit, and the Petrov, French and Sicilian defense. You're wondering where all these exotic names come from. Well, openings are usually named after the countries where they were first invented, or after the first person to play them.
Wow, are there that many openings?
There are more than you can imagine, and all of them have a whole range of variations and alternatives. Can drive you crazy if you're not careful, and then it's no fun anymore at all.
Well, I just want to have a little look.
Okay, there's no harm in that. And in fact, if you can at least get to know one or two openings, that's actually quite a good thing. But don't worry if your opponent does something you've never seen before. All you need to do is keep those brain cells of yours switched on, and with a bit of luck, you'll even be able to beat King Black. Ole! This opening is called the Spanish opening. It's also sometimes called the Ruy Lopez.
Do you want to play this position against me?
This one's the Italian. Looks very similar to the Spanish opening, except here the bishop doesn't move out quite as far.
Why not?
It means he can threaten this pawn, and that's often a weak point in a game.
Do you want to play this position against me?
The Queen's Gambit looks similar to the King's Gambit, except that it's on the Queen's side.
So it's the same, really, like a kind of mirror image.
No, it's quite different, because where the king or queen are is of the utmost importance.
Do you want to play this position against me?
The French defense.
I get it. This is one for the pawns.
Do you want to play this position against me?
I proudly present the Sicilian defense.
Whoopsie-daisy.
Yep, it's a bit unusual, I must admit.
Do you want to play this position against me?
Ladies and gentlemen, the Petrov defense, also called Russian.
Quite nice, too.
Do you want to play this position against me?
Okay, I think that's enough about the opening.
Learning moves by heart is fine, but if you play them all the time, you'll find that chess becomes a bore, and then you'll want to play no more.
Don't worry, iCuties.
When I look around, it seems to me as if we've done most of the things here.
Shall we look in the elevator again?
Yes. Let's have another look in the elevator.
Damien our Damien, he's made of brains and brawn, which means to say there's more to him than just a measly pawn. If the cake's within your sight, distract the guard, then grab it tight. Learning moves by heart is fine, but if you play them all the time, you'll find that chess becomes a bore, and then you'll want to play no more. To win some space or time or more, give up a pawn and don't feel sore. Once you know inside your head where your pieces are, just sit back and relax and know that you'll go far. When a child is playing chess, don't think it's weak and small, for even though it might look less, it's as clever as you all. Whether black or white or red, all you need is in your head.
Congratulations! You now have enough velocity to go to all floors.
Hey, we're so cool.
Top floor at ground level.
Sounds like the way out. Hey, there aren't any machines in here. Just some kind of door.
Do you think that's the way out then?
Reckon so. But it seems to be locked.
Wait a second. Didn't King Black mumble something about a secret code? Some rubbish about it being unbreakable or something?
You're right, he did. What a pain. If only we knew the code, then it would all be so easy.
What is a code anyway?
Well, it's usually made up of letters and symbols and numbers that have to be put in the right order.
What, you mean like on these scraps of paper we've been collecting?
Ha ha! So the little brat has worked it out. She's quite right about the code. Trouble is, it's not complete, because the seventh and last piece of paper is right here in my hand. And do you know what I'm going to do with it? Just watch.
No! How on earth are we going to get out of here now?
If all goes well, you'll never, ever get out. That's the whole point. It's bad enough that you've got this far. I don't understand it. How could a couple of brainless idiots manage to work the Elosophical Elevator?
Because they aren't brainless at all. In fact, if you ask me, they're brainier than you.
Who's talking to you, you dirty little sewer rat? And even if they aren't as stupid as they look, there's no hope for them. And now I have better things to do. May we never meet again. Ha ha!
Oh no. What are we going to do now?
Well, if you ask me, we just break the code and out we go. Easy. Look, Fritz, the secret code isn't so secret at all.
You mean we just have to play the game?
Looks like it.
Hey, check it out. We've got the first lock open.
Great stuff. You're doing really well.
And that's number 2 down.
That's the third one now.
Number 4.
Open sesame, number 5. Right then, that was number 6. Now what?
We'll just have to try it out.
You know what I think? I bet that what is missing is one last move that checkmates the opponent.
We can work that out. We're really good at checkmating now, aren't we, Bianca?
I'd go so far as to say we're champion checkmaters. But what can the move be?
Have a think and then move.
Yes, yes, yes! That was it! The last lock's open! We're free!
What the? You two? But, the door? How did you...
Do you want an honest answer? It was child's play.
Easy. And now we're free, and we can tell everyone that you aren't the best chess player in the land, and that Chester the Cheshire Rat is.
Oh, the nerve of it! You two silly little upstarts who don't know the first thing about anything. King's Gambit, for a start.
We know that already. E2, E4, E5, E7, and F2, F4. We give up the pawn.
You really do. But I bet you don't know what a knight's fork is.
That's where the knight threatens 2 pieces at the same time, isn't it?
I don't believe it. It's not possible for children to know such things.
It is. If you're as brainy as us, and you have Chester, the world's best coach, to help you.
You're quite simply a bad loser, King Black.
Me? Impossible! I can't be a bad loser because I never lose.
Except against us.
What did you say? You'll regret you ever said that. I challenge you to a duel. Play against me and lose.
We'll take your word on that, and we'll be more than happy to broadcast the duel live for our viewers. But first of all, King Black, we'd like to ask you to make a statement regarding the recent accusations against you. It is claimed that you kidnapped Chester the Cheshire Rat in order to be able to take his place as best chess player in the land. Do you have anything to say?
Of course, those are all lies. No truth in any of it. False evidence, defamation, complete and utter nonsense. Nothing but speculation.
Here we have a special news flash. Chester the Cheshire Rat, the best chess player in the land, has been found again in King Black's castle. And King Black has challenged Bianca and Fritz to a duel. We will be providing you exclusive live coverage of it. And now, back to Black Castle for the latest news.
Play against me and lose.
Time to tidy up.
That's mine.
Ever heard the term sacrifice?
See you.
Another one down.
If he had any idea what we're up to, he wouldn't be laughing half so loud.
Check, you little brat.
But not checkmate, mate. Check.
Sorry, we need a bit more space.
That's mine.
Yours for the taking. Hey, pal, you're in check.
There. Now you're in check.
As long as that's all it is.
Check and mate. Weren't expecting that, were you?
Congratulations, Fritz and Bianca, on this splendid victory over King Black.
That's not true. It's quite simply not true. You must have cheated or something.
Okay, I admit we did have the odd secret weapon or two.
I knew it. Come on then. What were they?
Super brain power.
We just played well. Better tactics.
A hopeless opponent.
Those two are better.
Ah, my master pupil. You can continue practicing for as long as you like.
Hey, this is good. We can choose a new opponent. My pocket chess set. What about a game?
This is my organizer. I've written down the most important chess rules in it. The king can only move one step at a time. There's an exception when he's allowed to move two at a time. It's called castling. The kings are never allowed to stand next to each other. You can make use of this to force your opponent's king to the side of the board. The queen is the strongest piece, as women are in real life. She can move in a straight line, like a rook, and diagonally like a bishop. You should take especially good care of her because she's very valuable. The rook is like a big car. It starts off slowly, but once it gets going, it's difficult to stop. Rooks can only move in a straight line. They can protect each other too, which is very useful. Bishops can only move diagonally. One of your bishops moves along the light squares, the other one along the dark squares. They never meet, but when they're next to each other, they can be a real nuisance. I mean for your opponent, of course. This piece is called a knight, even though it looks like a horse. It moves 2 squares forwards and 1 to the side, and it can jump over other pieces. If you have the choice, don't put your knight at the edge of the board. It's better to have it in the middle, because it's more effective there. Pawns can only move forwards 1 square at a time. The exception is on their first move when they can move forward 2 squares if they like, but they don't have to. They capture diagonally. Pawns aren't worth much, but if they cover for each other, they can be a real nuisance. And of course, they're great for hiding your king behind. The pieces are worth different amounts. You could say that a queen is worth the same as 9 pawns and a rook is worth 5. Knights and bishops are each worth 3. The king isn't included as he's always in the game and can't be captured. Castling is pretty useful as it's a 2 for the price of 1 move, so to say. It moves your king into safety and at the same time lets a rook enter into the fray. You can castle kingside or queenside. If you castle kingside, you go in the direction of the king. If you do it queenside, you move in the direction of the queen. Basically, it works like this. You move the king 2 squares to either side and the rook jumps over it. That's all there is to it. En passant is a special rule that not many people know about, even some people who can play really well. A pawn can move forwards 1 or 2 squares on its first move. If it moves 1 square, it can be captured in the usual way. But if it moves forward 2 squares, it can, just this once, be captured by the opponent's pawn as if it had only moved forward 1 square. But the opponent has to capture it immediately. Abracadabra, pawn promotion. If a pawn makes it across to the other side of the board, it can be promoted into any piece you like, except a king, of course. It's usually best to choose a queen, but sometimes a knight might be better. Check means that the king is under attack and could, so to say, be captured on the next move. It's pretty annoying because if you're in check, you have to get your king out of it. You can't just leave him in check and hope for the best. Checkmate means that your king is in check and can't get out of it, no matter what he does. If you're mated, you've lost and you shake hands with your opponent. If you're playing against the computer, you can shake the mouse. Stalemate means that one of the players can't move any of their pieces without the king landing in check. The game is then said to be a tie, or to use chess speak, a draw. It's a draw if neither side can win. A draw is another word for a tie. There are 4 reasons for it.
Are you fritzed out already?
And? Learn some more? Then turn off the computer, get out your chessboard, and get going. Challenge someone to a game. Maybe a friend or a hamster. Or your dad. Go on, show him how to do it. Or your mom. Maybe your brother or sister. Your neighbor. Your bike. The mayor, the president, the queen of Baluchistan. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose, just as long as you play. Play against people who wear glasses or with long noses. Against dragons or vampires, cyclops, giants, or the little green men who land on roofs on Saturday nights. And once you've got really good, you might even like to pitch your wits against a sewer rat like me.
Or against me.
Hey, Bianca, you don't happen to have a cake, do you?
Yep, here you go.